Three, two, one, let's go. Joel, hello, good morning, welcome, and I'm very happy to have you here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Joel, you have a very impressive resume, in my opinion. You are the co-founder of Egghead.io. You are also running Badass, that dev. We'll speak about that, working with folks like Kenzie Dodds, Jack Harrington, and many, many wonderful instructors. You have been also VP of Education at Versal, so absolutely great career. I will start with the icebreaker you're using in your podcast. When it comes to learning, how do you tackle learning complex topics? Where do you start from?
I guess it's interesting because it's evolved a lot over the years. And particularly these days, you sit down and you're like, oh, I want to learn something new. And I think the like instinct and probably where most of us are going to go to, where previously it'd be Google, now it's going to be whatever your preferred agent is, whether it's, Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and kind of start diving in at that point. Though, like a chat box uh, is a good start, and it's a way to like, especially for some, I think smaller topics. But for me, it's like I love an infinite canvas. I like to capture research and deep dive and like capture my understanding and build out a knowledge graph. And so I still do that, and I use an agent harness, and these days I'm using like the Pi coding harness, and I love it a lot, and I'll use that as kind of my base of operations when I'm researching. So versus like the web chat or kind of your typical chat interface, I use that, and then also use it as a way to store information and capture information and dictate notes into and capture my links and capture PDFs and references and all these sorts of things, and you kind of build it into this retrievable knowledge base. And so I feel like I'm still learning a lot, but the shape of it has changed so much over the last just, even the last 6 months. I feel like it's changed quite a bit and
Correct.
continues to change. So like I've seen this question, are we, kind of a post learning, post education? Why bother when you can just have an LLM, you know, it knows everything. So why do we need to know anything? And I don't, like that's obviously not the case. It's a very exciting time to go deep on topics that interest you, because I think we have more kind of intelligence at our fingertips, and capabilities in terms of organizing it and building that, this idea of a second brain for your retrieval and recovery. So that's pretty exciting to me, and I think like how I would ultimately say I'm doing it today, and it's going to be interesting to see how that answer might change in the next 6 months, because it might.
Exactly. Speaking about why still learn when the almighty AI knows everything, I think it's important to understand the mental model. Maybe you don't have to know all the smallest tiny details, but the overall mental model, that's where you gain value, and that's why it's still worth it to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like the mental, and I think there's value in the details also. And I mean, to be honest, I'm 52 years old, so like I haven't spent a lot of time acquiring like new hobbies or new skills or doing deep research. It's more of like lately I've been implementing and working on the research that I've acquired over the last 15 years. So, I have this body of captured knowledge, and versus that kind of, like the research spiral where you're, like learning and researching and learning and learning. I'm really on focused on kind of the building and applications end of that spectrum currently. Um, Not to say that there's not plenty of learning involved, and really, I don't know, it's almost tiring the amount of kind of keeping up
Correct.
that is required currently. So a lot of it has to do with that, but that's different than kind of learning from whole cloth. It's this iterative thing over the course of years, that's built up and continues to kind of push forward.
Correct. You have been involved into many educational projects. directing courses. I think you are somehow, in my opinion, kind of like the Guy Ritchie for developer courses, the director that sits behind and manages from the backstage. But also you have been involved into multiple educational platforms. So you have seen a lot. In your opinion, what is one of the most underdeveloped aspect people forget to do when they are trying to build high quality educational content?
That's a good question. I think that, like there's this first 75% of, like building a thing that's pretty straightforward. And it's the last 25%. It's the details that kind of get in the way. And there's this, I think people generally will try to put too much in. I think that's like something that is just kind of human nature. There, you have the universe at your disposal. So where do you start and what can you cram into this and trying to, like just overstuff where quantity is the goal versus, quantity and focus and editing. And at the end of the day, what people are paying you for when you're talking about like the commercialization and building a information product is your curation of the subject matter,
Mm.
because almost anything, it's like, oh, why would I pay for that? I can learn that for free, and you can gather, information on YouTube or it's all over, right? Like or your LLM or whatever. The expertise and the value that we get from a course is that distillation and the editing process of the expert that's ultimately the instructor presenting it. So I think that's, like that's a critical understanding, is that the editing is really where the value is, and the more you can bring it down and like into pure valuable information and save people that time, I think that's a lot of the value comes from.
Oh, totally agree. Right now, I'm working on a book about how neural networks work from the perspective of JavaScript developers. Because when ChatGPT appeared, I was like, okay, I know how to do if then else, but I have no idea how this works. And I try to do that, picking up a bit of information from here and now from here and so on. And yes, you can go now into GPT, but you still don't know exactly how to prompt it, how to ask it to make you that roadmap. And when defining, okay, why I'm writing this book, well, I think it's exactly for that map. So I totally agree with the curation and making the journey a bit shorter, maybe saving
Yeah,
time.
and and on that topic, like Andre Karpathy is one of my favorite educators, and like he brings us joy to what he does, and it's always amazing.
Yeah,
He's one of the smartest people on the internet, and he still kind of brings this levity to a very intense topic. But he's also always trying to take it to the smallest possible surface area, and I'm always amazed at his ability to take something that's extremely complex and really try to compress it down to, what is the least amount that can actually get the result. And I think that's, that's a pretty good example of what I'm talking about, where like you have one of the world's most prolific experts on a subject and is able to, like with fun and levity, bring it down into, something that's simple. It's kind of like Richard Feynman would be, I think, the
correct.
like a canonical example of somebody that's able to take, it's like astrophysics and physics and taking these concepts and making it something that is, I mean, almost understandable to mere mortals. And I love that as a skill. And I think the best educators are the ones that have that skill, the ability to
Correct.
curate and edit and present something that is more consumable. And it's not to say that that's not dumbing it down. It's just making it to where, like they're either through metaphor or, making like simple terms and reducing the thing down to kind of the essence of value and understanding is what makes it amazing. And that's, it's like when we go back to Egghead IO and kind of this principle of building something smaller, because at the time, John Linquist and I like hate videos because people will like constantly
Yeah.
jump into like the long intros, padding, explaining basics. It's like, stop, like give me, like give me what I want, show me your expertise, get to the like meat of the thing as quickly as possible and let me get out the door and get back to what I actually want to do. And usually when people are learning, they're not learning for the sake of learning. They have some other goal in mind that they're trying to reach in their life. So like as when we're teaching and educating, it's so important to keep that in mind. They are not here to learn, they're here to accomplish some other task or goal or like personal thing in their life that they need to get done, which is not doing this for the sake of it. And not to say people don't do that. There's probably people that just learn as a hobby, but honestly, that's generally not the audience.
Exactly, exactly. When you were saying, I thought about the Udemy classes of 12 hours or something like, even I
Mhm.
saw 30 hours classes, like, why? It's too much. I think, where was it? In The Little Prince, Antoine de Exupéry or something like that is the name of the author, was a line like something, perfection is achieved not when there is something else to be added, but where there isn't anything else to be removed.
Yeah, I agree
So,
with that.
yeah, totally agree. Uh, One thing in a very important aspect in any product, including educational products, is the validation part. How do you know that the users want what you have to offer? And my question is, how would you approach validating a course, a book, doesn't educational material without having a big audience? How would you do it?
So building the audience is super challenging, and I think there's the internet is full of noise, and being signal in the noise is ultimately what you're trying to do, and people will resonate with that because there is a lot of noise and there's a lot of laziness and a lot of like GPT generated
Yeah.
tweets and this sort of thing. So first of all, you want to stand out by being authentic and human and delivering on value out of the gate. And for me, I think it's like it's starting small, and I base most of this on Amy Hoy and Alex Hillman's 30 by 500 classes. It's something that's been important to me, and they're friends and colleagues and mentors of mine. And if you can start small and you set your expectations accordingly, you can make a small thing, and it's not necessarily going to be the life-changing money, and that's always relative. But the best way to validate if you have a product that people will buy is to sell it. And it's like there's this book called The Mom Test by Rob
Mhm.
Fitzpatrick that I love a lot. And Rob talks about, like, hey mom, what do you think? How do you like my outfit? Oh, you look awesome, sweetie. You look so great. And like,
Yeah,
oh, they're
it's
just
exactly the printed book.
yeah, and
Now I have the visual background, but yeah.
it's an amazing book, and all three of his books they're like a series to me. But like you cannot ask people, will you buy this? And on X.com, the everything app, my favorite thing to do when I see a poll is my philosophy is I pick whichever option is the most work and suffering for the author. That is literally how I answer Twitter polls. And you cannot ask people, will you buy this? Because overwhelmingly you get false answers. And the only way you can validate whether somebody will buy it or not is to have a credit card input form. So, it's like, to me, we do a lot of workshops. I think it's a great, speaking of Rob
Mhm.
Fitzpatrick, his Workshop Survival Guide is a fantastic book. And workshops are amazing because if you can get 3 or 5 people to show up to your workshop and pay you to learn whatever it is you're teaching, then you probably have an idea that you can iterate on, and then you can do the workshop again, and can you increase that, and you learn, and every time you do this and you sell it, provide value to a set of users, get their feedback, improve and iterate on the same idea, like you're able to improve it over time. And I think that's like, as a format, that's one of my personal favorites. It takes like the least it takes a lot of effort, but it's the least like chiseled in stone. If you do a video course, for instance, those are extremely difficult to produce. And once they're produced, then like you've built this thing and you're tied to it in an emotional and kind of blood, sweat, and tears sort of way. And it's hard to change versus a workshop where when you're delivering that, people are super gracious. It's live. You can like change on the fly. You get to interact. You get to see people's facial expressions. You can do them on Zoom. And once they are done, they kind of can float away. They can float,
Correct.
like float away on the sands of time. And you can then iterate and make the new thing. And like now you get something, you've done a couple iterations, you really understand it. You can then, okay, this is really something. And through this entire process, I can't express how building an email list is still the distribution channel for this sort of product. And I don't have a lot. I haven't, B2B SaaS is not my area of expertise. It's, like I sell knowledge at the end of the day and help facilitate that.
Right.
So that's really what I'm talking about when I do this. Though I think a lot of these techniques work just as well if you're building a product. It's like start small, iterate,
So,
get actual feedback,
like
take people's credit card numbers, like that sort of thing is
I say, basically start from the low resolution, and after that increase the resolution with each iteration. Maybe like start
yeah,
with a
yeah.
workshop and work. Yeah, indeed. Uh, AI changed already many things, including the way we learn. I was listening to a Naval Ravikant podcast a few days ago, and he was saying that he thinks that AI is the most patient tutor you can have, and it's also quite good at meeting you at your specific level. So for sure, some things will be taken from the instructors by the AI, will be completely removed by the AI. But if you'll have to make a prediction, an advice, what do you think will still be value that only humans can add to the learning process?
Well, I mean, the AIs are interesting in that obviously they have like the entire compressed corpus of human knowledge squished into them, but they don't have the experience to understand, like what it is to be a person, and they don't have the motivations and ultimately I think, kind of curation and perception is something that we, like still have to offer. And if you think about where like what an LLM is doing and doing for us, and it's like you see that coding is going away, software engineering is going away, and what does that actually mean? And it's the act of coding, like typing out code, is something that is fading away. And what does that mean? And where does that leave us? And it's this idea that we need to, like as people understand what other people want and desire, spec that out, verify, and then do that kind of feedback loop that I was talking about in terms of, okay, well, how did that turn out? How did, like what did people accept? So it's kind of that people say taste a lot, and I don't know if that's a good word as any. I don't know that it's specific enough, but we were able to apply this kind of human experience in our personal context that we built up, from like living on the planet with other human beings. And that's something that I think is going to be pretty challenging to replace with artificial intelligence. And I think people ultimately, regardless of the amount of intelligence behind, there's a subset of people. Most of us are going to want to have a human connection, have
Correct.
the human in the loop, and feel that. It's like I've seen the uprise of robo tweets and AI generated replies, and it's like they're better. They actually are pretty passing, but they still like in your, like your soul or just tearing, it's
Yep.
like you can feel it, right? Like it's like, ugh.
Yep.
And you can smell Claude. And I love, like,
Correct.
I love these
Especially
tools.
Claude.
Like, yeah, like it's just so you can read the reply, and it's a perfectly structured and contextually relevant, and it's just like it just reeks. And I think that kind of uh, robo stank is something that just people have an aversion to, and they call it the uncanny valley, where a thing is almost human, but there's just something about it that throws it off. And this was in CGI. This was a big thing when they were trying to make like truly realistic humans in CGI. And if there's just Polar Express, there's just something about it that's grotesque to us as
Correct.
as as people, and it's very subtle, and it can, like just that little edge, and it like people feel it, and they may not even know it on the surface. But I think that's part of it too. And that, I mean, frankly, that's probably going to get better, for better or worse. That's going to get
Yes.
better, and that uncanny valley is going to get shallower over time, and that's good. But I think there's, like, I think I'm bullish on humanity, frankly. So
Same here. So for some reason, I always thought about instructors because at one point, one friend told me, okay, but there are so many React instructors. Why do you want to be one of them or to teach something? And I think it's a bit like Italian restaurants. So we already have so many Italian restaurants, but each of them or many of them have their own personality, those
mm.
small quirkiness, those small ways of doing stuff. And I think it's kind of the same with teaching. The way you like a specific Italian restaurants with that detail and so on, I think it's kind of the same for instructors. You may like someone who jokes more or someone who is very direct or so on. So, yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's the personality and the flavor and the style of presentation, and like all that stuff kind of comes into play. And I live in Portland, and we have endless pizza restaurants, and like they're all good and in their own unique ways, and they're all different, and it's amazing. And like how many pizza restaurants is too many pizza restaurants? And I have no idea because we're not there yet, and there's just a bunch of them. So I think that's a pretty good analogy as far as that goes.
Exactly, exactly. Let's talk a bit about building businesses, motivation, and energy allocation. One thing that is currently quite a lot of my mind is the fact that people have similar-ish, I would say, amounts of time and intelligence. Yet a small shop owner can work 60 hours per week with a very modest income, while a good entrepreneur may build a multi-billionaire business with the same time. Luck, of course, plays a role into this, but I think prioritizing and picking where to place your bets is a huge thing. So I would like to ask you, do you have a strategy to prioritize work that actually drives results? How do you think? What should I work next?
I'm pretty bad at this. I'm super chaotic, and I don't, like I actually don't. When I reflect on kind of my business journey, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh man, like there was just the poor decisions that you make over time, and I can see, um, I see people, it's like they will build a business and exit, or we see these folks online where they're building these multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar businesses, and there's, like it's that comparison is the thief of joy kind of situation, right? Because I'm relatively content building a fairly small business, and putting my time to things that I guess spark joy for myself, and kind of like trying to spend my time on earth building things that I feel good about, and where I spend my time during the day is in my interests, and I rotate a lot, and it's kind of like on a day-to-day basis deciding what should be done. I'm not a great forward thinker as far as, like here's my 6 month roadmap. I'm gonna really, like hyper focus on those things, and I'm always impressed by people that are able to do that, frankly. So I might not be the best person to answer the question, because my day to day is like, what am I really interested in? What, like keeps me going and intellectually stimulated, and kind of, like comes up on my screens, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun and interesting. And I've had days where I'm, like as a business owner, where you are literally have to do things tax compliance. That's a
I
good
know.
example. And I'm in the
Yeah.
US, and it's relatively easy. I don't, I'm thankful every day that I do not have to comply with the German tax officers, because there's a lot worse places to have to deal with compliance
Correct.
than the US. But that's like, it's horrible. And like, who wants to do that? And like, like, I'm so glad accountants exist, but like at the same time, there's, like that sort of thing. And you do have to do that. But if you can build something as such to where every day you wake up and you're like, oh man, this is great. And you don't just want to, like, I've laid in bed in the morning and thought about the job that I was about to go have to do, and just like absolutely, wanted to die. And, but I still get up and you go do it. And I'm not in that situation anymore. I was thankfully well in the rearview mirror, but I think about that a lot. And, it's like I look at the guy that runs the gym I go to, and he is the
Mhm.
most enthusiastic, everyday happy, and, like just there for everybody and loves his community and does for us, so much, and has built this amazing space for us. And that's not making him material, like his material wealth isn't being maximized, but his, like the wealth of his soul and what he does for the community and the people that count on him and look up to him and fist bump him every day and are like in a place that truly brings them joy as well. And like he wouldn't trade that. I don't think. I don't want to speak for him, but he, like when you see that, and I think that's really important. And I don't think a $10 million exit or a $1 billion exit is going to be, it's not going to answer. That's not going to be instant happiness. I think like having enough money to feed yourself and clothe yourself and provide for your family and all those essentials is critical, and but at the same time it isn't
So,
it isn't the
w- w-
key. So
would you say that also, like when Egghead was the main priority, you're like working on what you found the most interesting for yourself, like not having like a roadmap for a few months or something? How was that? Or
I honestly wish I had like when in retrospect I look at it, and there was a time where Pluralsight was like literally buying every small
Mhm.
training company that
Yeah.
did videos on the internet, and for like writing nice checks, and Egghead was making, our MRR was very high. It was a
Mhm.
multi-million-dollar business, and like I could see the inflection point where it kind of turned the corner, and people were like, oh, is that AI? Did that? And I was like, no, it was just me making questionable choices and like steering the business kind of in based on my whims, or I frame it as I thought I was super smart. I was actually lucky and just in the right place at the right time with the right people. And like we had kind of this fire on the bottle, and there was a point in like 2018, 2019 where the curve was going up,
Yeah.
Pluralsight was knocking, and I was like, go fuck yourself. I know what I'm doing. I'm so fucking smart. We're going to the moon. And like that wasn't the case. And like if I had a soul, and I was very much like, no way I'm giving them this company. I love it too much. It means too much to me, and like other people love it. And that was true. And it would have made me very sad to see them ruin it, because they ultimately ruined every site that they purchased. But it would have been, there's this Woody Harrelson meme where Woody's wiping his tears away with a fanned out $100 bill. So it would have been one of those kind of sadnesses. And like sometimes I'm like, oh man, that would have been awesome. But I didn't do it, and like uh I don't have a, it's like not a real regret. Like at the time, like I knew why I was doing that, and you look back and you're like, oh, I could have made better decisions, or like I could have done this differently. And sure, but ultimately it's like, what am I going to do today? It's still what I do, and I'm smarter for it. I'm
Right.
calmer. um we are still doing kind of the same thing, and it's funny because it's the same idea. I build the same software over and over again. It's Egghead, it was Epic React, it's AI Hero, it was Vercel Academy. It's like I'm
I
working
see.
with Jason Langsdorf now, and kind of thinking about Code TV and what he does, and how we can bring that and kind of take that as the spiritual successor to what we built at Egghead. And I'm like, this is the same thing, and I'm just kind of spiraling around that higher resolution, that Kathy Sierra
Yeah.
badass kind of higher resolution approach to the whole thing. And I don't have this like intense need for novelty in my life. I love it. I love
Mhm.
chaos. You get plenty of it with the AI aspect of everything. Like bringing all the
Correct.
chaos I need, and kind of gives me, I was born to prompt. So like like I'm a kid
Mhm.
in a candy store now, and I really enjoy it.
I
And
see.
like still having fun building the same thing for 15 years at the end of the day.
I see. For me, kind of very similar stories, by the way, because I always admired Audi as a, and also BMW as a car manufacturer. I'm not sure how popular they are in the US, but
Super popular.
Okay. Then you always see that they iterate a bit of detail on the next design. On the other side, if you take Renault or something, like if you see Renault Megane this version versus that version, or Ford Mondeo, one version versus another version, are all almost completely different, like especially Megane, completely different cars. So I always admired this way of trying to achieve perfection by slightly is the craftsmanship. You always iterate on the same, like Japanese,
Yeah.
Japanese craftsmanship.
I got to say the BMW front end noses are an iteration that I hate to see, but
Exactly. Good point. Totally agree. They look like sharks, or I don't know
you
what.
get used to it. It's like change,
Yeah,
they change it
yeah,
up. It
exactly.
goes away from the classic, but
Le-
it's still a beautiful car. So
Let me rephrase. Maybe like 5 years ago. So what they did for the past 10 years, 10, 15 years, that was the period I'm.
yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. It's more classic, and it's like I think I think the most canonical example for me would be like a Porsche 911 and its
Yeah,
evolution from like the 70s up to
yeah,
the modern one, and you can feel the line being drawn all
totally.
the way back. It's the same with the like the
Yeah,
M series, like an M3. You can really like
yeah,
you can feel the lineage in
yeah,
their core brand, and that's it. And just it's just that iteration on the one idea and seeing how far you can take it is interesting and exciting to me. And I think a lot of people seek novelty, and I see that, and I appreciate them for doing that work. But it's just like I'm
correct.
there's like some part of me that loves chaos, and then the other part that loves stability, and those two halves are always pushing and pulling in my
Correct. Correct. But on the other side, it takes so much to do something of high quality, so it's normal to have all of these iterations.
yeah.
Uh, Given the fact given your high creativity level, how do you know how much to invest in one project, to invest in a bet? So sometimes you have this situation when things don't work out from the beginning, but if you push, then you get into a really good point. On the other times, it's just a dead end and you are wasting energy. Have you figured out a mental model to decide where to keep allocating energy into the project, or when you just drop it?
Yeah, I think my situation is interesting because we're almost always beholden to other people, and our deal with most of the people that we work with is you make the content, we make everything else. And I've successfully published hundreds of folks' work, and that is like the tip of the iceberg in terms of the projects that we've started that have not made it to the finish line. And over the years, we've gotten better at that. But even still, even as early as last week, we have projects that got fairly far, but then they stop, and like we're like, oh man, like I thought this one was going to make it, and like we're like a no hard feelings kind of situation, but it is required that over the years we get better at understanding and getting the signals and setting gates to jump and making the gates progressively higher. So we invest, and I often, because of our situation where we are dealing with a content creator or a would-be content creator, somebody that's like a busy software professional that's, like also, has a high-level job and then wants to like make content. And how do we do that? And I always, one of the kind of analogies that I make, it's like we're playing tennis and we'll hit a ball to you, you hit it back. We'll hit a ball to you, and we start getting that volley going back and forth, and then we pick up speed, and then we're really playing, right? Like, and then we're going, and we're anticipating each other. And when I work with somebody like Kenzie Dodds, who I've worked with for over a decade now, and Matt Pocock, who we're at like 5 years, we understand and have built a relationship and enough trust. It's not even an issue. I know that you're going to take care of your shit, and I'm going to take care of mine, and we're going to get that done. And so it's this like idea of building trust and relationship, and like mutual understanding, but then also just so we can continue to operate as a business, having when do we stop, when do we pull back, when do we say, hey, it's fine, we get it, this is no hard feelings. But I have projects too that we stick with for years, and we'll I understand you're busy. I really want this project to succeed. Don't worry about it. We'll keep going and keep, just we can be slow. It's fine. And like I have those, and I'm excited to see them come to light. And if they don't, that's fine too. But I have that understanding that that a lot of times they don't make it. And I decided early on that I wasn't going to be frustrated too much. I wasn't going to hold grudges. I wasn't, I don't want to be a person that makes people feel deeply guilty about not doing the thing they do anyway. That's just kind of our nature, right? Like if they feel, oh, I don't, I'm disappointed. You built this whole thing. We built the site. It's beautiful. I just can't do it. And it's like, it's fine. Like no, no
I see.
worries. Like it happens.
I
If
see.
you change your mind or situation is different, then let's talk.
I see. Oh, very interesting. Um, you spent a lot of time into education, and why education? Why this matters to you so much to give so much of your life in the end to this topic?
So in terms of selling things on the internet, info products are kind of the low rung.
Mhm.
They are straightforward. They like have kind of a constant need. People always need to learn stuff. And like up from there, you go to like full software as a service, B2B, SaaS. Like that's the
Yeah, the
the
ladder.
top
Yeah,
echelon, right? Like that's where it's at. And I don't have a lot of ideas. Like in terms of B2B SaaS, I haven't, like info products are a great way to start. And then I think traditionally if you're climbing that ladder, you'd be like, oh, okay, well I finance that. I can like bootstrap my way up or whatever. And I just it just worked and I enjoy it. There's a lot of reward in it. It's fun to look back and think of not only all the people that we've helped in terms of the students, but
yeah.
like the way that we've approached it in terms of enablement and the content creators and the instructors side of things, and seeing like how radically that's changed the lives of many dozens, hundreds of folks has been pretty rewarding, and it's very directly rewarding, and I like that without having to maintain or deal with the rest of it. So I guess at the end of the day, it just keeps on paying the bills, and I enjoy the work, and I don't have to like think of the novelty of something new. And if I do have a great idea, I would certainly build it. But I look at it, it's like I don't necessarily want to, I'm not trying to build a course platform, for instance, or like be a teachable or
Correct.
whatever, which would have been kind of the obvious thing to I think build out of it. But
And be the aggregator.
yeah, like the
Yeah,
the the service
yeah,
for everybody
yeah.
versus the and I think about, it's like, oh, well, maybe a course platform for enterprises so they can do compliance. And I just, like just makes me want to curl up in a little ball under my desk and cry, even thinking about like
Correct.
having to do that. It's important to like your audience.
Correct. Totally agree. Totally agree. Uh, you have, I would say that maybe almost all of your project were self-founded. This means that they have a very real risk of failure, and the mortality rate for the startups is quite high. My question for you is, how do you stay motivated when you are responsible also for others, for your family, and not just for you? What do you tell to your inner voice when it's suggesting that, hey, maybe you should just get a decent, high-paying, decently stable, well-paying job? I'm asking because I'm having the same dialogue in my head. So yeah.
I mean, I took a stable,
Mhm.
relatively high paying job and did it for a year, and it was fine. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, I'm, like it's just it's restricting, and having a job isn't necessarily stability. And you see people be, like they get laid off, and you're kind of at the whims of your employer and what they do. And it was a great job. I worked with amazing people, and like for a company that I adore, I'm a super fan of.
So do I,
Um, so
Marcelo. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, and I'm like, this is just it's insanity to like leave this behind, but also I think there's the saying, all your eggs in one basket, and
Yeah.
that's like you end up with one customer versus I have
Right.
thousands of customers currently, or and if you take that as the instructors, tens of customers or hundreds of customers, and if one fires me, then we have some resilience versus like what happens when uh, you see it all the time. Like people will really be focused on their job and something changes, and that's I think something to think about. Thankfully for me, I do like I was able to do that, and then also keep the fires burning at home with my other businesses. But they were taking a hit, and I'm like, am I done? Am I done with that? Like, like where do I want to really double down and put my focus in this kind of time of change? And that's like building the business, making my thing, and being able to kind of have that autonomy is also super important to me, like agency and a very complete and total sort of way, right? Like I want to be able to wake up and literally do whatever I want during the day. And thankfully, most of the time, what I want to do is like do my work and
Correct.
uplift my partners and make sure that the users are satisfied and that my collaborators are happy and doing the stuff that they want to do too. So
Wonderful. Uh, I've recently read Antifragile by Nassim Taleb. It's a wonderful
mhm.
book. It speaks exactly about this. For example, currently I'm having a job. It's a good job, nice income, and so on. But on the other side, while somehow like I'm become richer, I also feel that I become weaker because I'm not acting in the wild. I'm not getting, uh, yeah, exactly like you said. Everything it depends on just one single client, and I'm not developing those skills to acquire new clients. And actual anti-fragile. It's much more anti-fragile to have more smaller customers than just one big one that you depend on.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's been a while since I read the book, but it's a great. I think like you can pull the essentially like if you don't want to read the book, that's the premise, right? Like if you focus too hard or you put like too much energy into a single thing, like that is going to be the calamities that can befall you are greater than if you spread out and kind of spread your bets across a larger surface area.
Exactly, exactly. I know that you are a big fan of Katie's Sierra, I will say badass users, I think. Are there any other books or people who influenced you and that you learned a lot from?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's a lot. I mentioned Amy Hoy and
Hmm.
Alex Hillman, and they continue to be strong influences in my life, and they also would speak to Kathy Sierra as an inspiration in their world as well. I love Rob Fitzpatrick in the recent years. One of the things that I've been doing that's kind of funny is taking every single PDF and book and source that I love and putting it into a semantic search database,
Hmm.
a semantic and full text search database. And that's really been interesting to me because I can kind of go over the whole corpus of everything that I've go over the last 2 decades basically and bring it into my current work and kind of have my agentic army pull that in. And that's
Oh,
that's
wow.
been that's been really wild. I have it set up to where I can take a picture of my bookshelf and it'll literally go download all the PDFs and add them to the database and like that sort of project is
And you use it to query about info, or how do you use it?
yeah, like it's semantics, so it can any problem that we're working on, it can go and dig in and find specific references and then expand. So like pull the sections or chapters of relevant info and kind of understand. I did a bunch of inference and summarization on top to where like so my kind of rating and rankings and what I am interested in and the topics that I um, are important to me kind of get surfaced more readily and that's just that's been a kind of a interesting unlock actually. It's a cool way to just get my information. And again, it's curated. So it goes back to, so it's curated to the things that I've been interested in over the last 2 decades, and the
I
authors
see.
that I like the most, since I kind of get rid of the
Oh
stuff that
wow.
I don't like. But yeah, I've really got a lot of mileage out of that.
Ha, a great idea. I will have to try this. Yeah, very interesting idea. Um, let's talk a bit about sports as the final question because I saw some really fantastic results on your X feed, and I'm also a bit of a sport fan. How did your passion for sports started? Because I think it's quite new. Is you're not or
I don't know if, I don't think passion is the right word.
Mhm.
M- and I wrote about this. If you go look at my webpage, you can
Mhm.
find it. And there's pictures of me in my underwear, and then before and after, a result
Okay.
of 3 year of consistent work where, I started as a robust individual, like
Mhm.
overweight, breathing heavy, couldn't walk around and talk on the phone at the same time. And I was like, oh my, like what I do, I got lung cancer, I get all these scans, and started on kind of a fitness journey just because, I was turning 50 years old, and the logic is that it's really hard to do at any age. It's hard to do at 50. It's going to be even harder to do at 60. And I've never in my life been physically fit. So if I'm ever going to do that and I want to, then I need to start and just like, just fucking do it, at the end of the day. And uh, I'm pretty slow to commit because I feel like if I want to commit to something, I need to like actually commit, and because quitting to me and stopping and breaking your commitments is a habit, and I'm that's not a habit I want to have. I want to, if I'm going to commit to
Yeah.
something, I'm going to stick with it. And I also have this other theory of, what if you do something for a year, and what if you do this thing that you don't really want to do? And for me, it's like fitness and tracking calories and thinking about diet, and none of that's fun. But what if you do it for a year? What does that actually mean? What can I do that for a year? And I absolutely can. I can do, you know, it's not that grueling. It's 1 year. I can stick with it. And then after that year, it's like, wow, that was, like, that made a big difference. So like, what else can I do? How can I like kick this up a notch? So did that. So I'm like 3 years into it, and it's like escalated from stretching 15 minutes a day to like spending 3 to 4 hours in the gym, 6 days a week is where I'm at
Okay.
currently. And I'm like, what, like, and that's, I'm not recommending that even for everybody. I don't think everybody needs that. But to me, I want it like, what if I do that for a year? What if I'm just like hardcore training and focused on fitness and actually sport? And sport for me is like, I'm not competitive. I don't care. I don't like watch sports. I just don't care. But I'm currently training for CrossFit, which is a sport, and one of the like, frankly, watch the CrossFit Games if you want to see like the ultimate expression of human fitness and capability. Those folks at that, like the elite tier,
Yeah.
and I'm never going to be there, but like the elite tier of CrossFit is like the most fit people on the planet. And it's like, well, what if I take that super seriously for a year and do this level of training and really kind of work on competing in their CrossFit Open, which is open to anybody, and you can go compete. So that's my current goal, is to do that. And it's like
Okay.
so it's kind of transform my mind. Like the mindset was first and
Correct.
foremost, then the body, and then, like keep ramping that up. And I don't I don't see myself going like ramping it up much further. But it's like
Correct.
like if I could stick with this for years, I think I'd be doing great. But maybe I'd change that, and maybe I'd play tennis or take up rock climbing, or like the options now. It's like once you have that fitness base, like once
Correct.
you do that, you can do all sorts of different things. And you can,
Yeah.
like, I could spend a year really focused on mountain biking, rock climbing, tennis, pickleball. I don't know, like whatever it is that I want to do, I wouldn't be limited by my, like physical capabilities. And I think that's really interesting to me. And I'm excited about that as a positive change for myself, and highly recommend it. I used, I hired a coach from, uh, My Body Tutor. Adam
Hmm.
runs an amazing program. My Body Tutor is awesome. Their coaches are amazing. It's the most kind
Okay.
of body positive, approach that I could have ever taken and like radically changed my life. I'm a big fan of coaches and mentors in general, but like that service in particular,
Ah, really? Okay.
yeah, like it
Good.
really like I thought it was going to be like I'd sign up and they'd give me a program and like give me a spreadsheet and I have to like follow the program and it really wasn't that. It was like where are you at now? Where do you want to be? Um, and like just kind of like a person that became very Walter became like a friend and a confidant and somebody that I could count on and somebody that was always there and always like in my corner seeing like what I could do next and pushing me to like live my own philosophy and kind of meet my goals. So that's been like that relationship has been fantastic for me over the years and I couldn't recommend the service more to anybody that wanted to like apply consistent change in their life.
Okay, 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 okay. Learned also this as a new thing today. Joel, thank you very much. It was a fantastic experience and a real
It's great
pleasure.
chatting.
Finally, where would you send people to follow you, or what would be like your?
I'm
Uh,
a shit poster, a mid poster. I post slice of life stuff on X.com, the everything app. So that's I'm always on there. That's where I go. Yeah, hero.dev is one of my current favorite projects. Kent Dodds is working on product engineering right now, and that we're got that spinning up, and it's really been very interesting. And then Code with Antonio is the other one. And I also love Jason Langsdorf's Code TV, and I'm getting more involved with that, and kind of we're thinking about what the educational arm of what he's doing. So those are my current active projects, and if you wanted to check them out, then I would encourage it, and tell me what you think.
Wonderful. I will link everything in the show notes, and thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Cheers. That was great,
Cheers.
Daniel. Thank you.